Hello and welcome to our North London Derby special brought to you by the FNX Network. I'm your host, Harry Simew, and this evening I'm joined by some fantastic guests. In the red corner with myself, we have Lee from the Same Old Arsenal podcast, and you may recognise Lee from Arsenal Fan TV. Lee, how's it going?
Yeah, all good. Thank you very much, Harry. Not been in a bad weekend, and it's not been a bad week so far. So quite enjoyable,
Good. Glad to have you with us. And in the blue corner, going head to head with us, mighty Gooners. This evening we have Dan De Luca, Sofa Sports News regular. Dan, how's it going?
Yeah, all good, Harry. Not too bad.
Good. And we also have Pani returning to the show. Pani, how's it going?
All good, Harry, mate. Thank you very much.
Good. I heard you were in hiding, but we managed to drag you out for this one.
Just a bit.
That's fine. Guys, unless you've been living in a parallel universe these past few days, you'll be well aware that Arsenal won the North London Derby by 2-0. Shkodran Mustafi and Alexis Sanchez, the scorers. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, of course, but prior to kickoff on Saturday, I want to ask you guys, did you feel that your respective managers made the right choices in terms of team selections? First of all, starting with the Spurs side. Dan?
No, not really. I didn't think it was I don't think it was the best team selection. I think that became apparent a few minutes in. I just think there are certain games where you can't afford to risk injured players. And I think that was a factor. I think it's worth mentioning that we had a depleted squad. A lot of our first 11 players weren't there, so it gave Pochettino a decision to make. And I guess you can never tell how fit a player is until he turns up. So, he's 15 minutes in when you can see Kane struggling to move. Obviously, it's easy to say it's the wrong decision. But you look at tonight, he's not particularly fit, and he found like one space and scored a goal. So I understand there was a few choices he made that didn't quite make sense. But you don't know how fit players were. A player like Winks, I'd expect him to start. But he was obviously missed a game through injury, pulled out of the England squad. So I just think with Spurs, it's really hard to know who was fit and what Pochettino's view was of him.
Okay, Pani, what about yourself? Was you happy with Pochettino's selection?
Yeah, yes and no, Harry, mate. Mate, you saw me before the game, and I was so confident. I don't know if I've ever gone Highbury or Emirates and been so confident to win the game. The only one I was more shocked about was Aurier. Now, he's not a bad player. The way I say it, he's a better version of Aboué. He's all arms and legs. He's got pace, got power, but the guy's clueless. But as good as we are, and yes, at the minute we're better than you guys, and really we should be taking you guys to the game. You need to look at where the Arsenal strengths are. And for me, seeing Trippier marking Kolasinac, who for me is probably the best left back in the country, that's what worried me the most. And I was thinking, right, it's all about North London Derby, all about the tackles, all about the hard men. Who's going to win the tackle out of those two? And then the more and more I was looking at our team, the only one that I could see that would win a challenge against would probably be Ramsey. Everywhere else, that team just worried me. The main one for me is the main person, the first player on my team sheet nowadays is Winksy. He's a proper Tottenham boy, a Tottenham lad. He knows what it's all about. He puts his head where most of our players won't even put our feet, for the likes of Dele and Ericsson. Those two were the ones that I was more concerned about. With Kane, as much as I've loved Llorente from his old days, he's not going to do it now. You have to play Kane, whether he's 20% fit or 100% fit. He has to play. You've got to gamble it. But those two are the main ones, Winksy and Aurier. I thought they should have just started, just to give a bit of a boost, a bit of a kick up the arse to the enemy.
Okay, so for those who don't remember the lineup, for Spurs, it was Lloris, Sanchez, Dyer, Vertonghen, Trippier, Davis, Sissoko, Dembele, Ericsson, Ali and Kane. On the Arsenal side, it was Cech, Koscielny, Mustafi, Monreal, Bellerin, Kolasinac, Ramsey, Xhaka, Ozil, Sanchez, Lacazette. Lee, I know Arsene Wenger comes under a lot of criticism for his team selections, but that team pretty much picks itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen, as we said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If Arsenal would have lost that game, we'd have all been caning Wenger for not playing Wiltshire. It's just one of those things. He just got it right on the day. I thought tactically, as the guys just said there, you know, Kolasinac on Trippier was, you know, he's obviously seen something there, and they just kept playing that ball up to him all the time in the air, and that just freed up Sanchez to run riot at times, you know. And listen, you know, I'm very surprised that Kane played tonight. He looked like, you know, I thought in the first half there weren't a lot in the game. I thought that we played really well, but Spurs looked dangerous because Kane seemed to be, he made a couple of chances, but I think about 2-3 minutes into the second half, you could see he weren't walking properly. And I think that once he sort of threat went, that was Tottenham's as well. You know, Tottenham are very much, I think they're a very, very good side, but he's just got that little bit of X factor when Harry Kane plays. But I was very surprised that Tottenham didn't play Song instead of him if he weren't fit, because the game last season he caused us all sorts of problems, Song. I think he's a very underrated player at Tottenham. I think that, you know, did he start today? I'll see him on the pitch today. But he's, you know, he scored. Did he score? He scored as well, didn't he? So I think he's a good player. He came on in the game actually, and created a couple of chances. But it's interesting that Spurs fans felt that they was so confident that they was going to win that game, because even when Arsenal, and I will quote this, were the best team in the country, I never ever went to White Hart Lane thinking that we was always going to beat them. I always felt it was always a difficult game for so many reasons. But I think that Tottenham, I don't know whether it's just their players as well, I wouldn't imagine so, but I think that every Spurs fan I spoke to, what do you reckon, Lee? It's going to be 2 or 3. You know, they all thought that they was going to win comfortably. And, you know, when you go to the big games, the big grounds, it's always tough, you know. And I did feel, because we was at home, we was always going to have a chance. So, but, you know, Wenger got it right on the day. And, you know, I think also Pochettino took a little criticism, I think a little bit unfair, if I'll be honest. You know, everybody's bumming him up before the game because he's made a couple of mistakes in the game. He's sort of been criticised, I think, unfairly for it.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with you, Lee. I think there is an air of arrogance amongst Tottenham fans at the moment. And, you know, I think this is going to be the first thing we're going to disagree on tonight, lads. But I think there's a massive air of arrogance coming from that side of North London. And I don't understand why, because you've not achieved anything yet. Pani, why were you so confident going to the Emirates? Bearing in mind Arsenal had won 10 Premier League games at home on the bounce going into that one. Why was you so confident?
Harry, the way I see it, mate, is I concentrate on my own team. And I know I mentioned about Kolasinac, but that was such a big difference between him winning, as the old boy say, him winning a header against Trippier is going to happen. Out of 100 headers, he's going to win every single one. So on that level, you know who's going to win that battle. But the way I see it is we should be strong enough from our current, especially our away form, just to go there with a bit more confidence, not arrogance, confidence, to play our game, not worry too much about the opposition, and play the way we play. From minute 2 or minute 3, I'm not sure, someone won a tackle against Eriksen, and the way you guys were closing us down from the front, which is how we usually play, it was like the roles had reversed. And then straight away, we all looked at each other thinking, right, we've got a battle on our hands here. And up until that point, like I said, mate, before the game, anything can happen in North London derby. And we know that. And I didn't think we'll smash you lot, far from. I thought we'd have enough to at least nick it. Now, when I mean nick it, maybe a 2-1, or if it's going to be high score, maybe 3-2. I didn't think it was going to be 4-5-0, something stupid like that. I don't know. For me, we just didn't look like the Spurs. I'm not going to say the Spurs of 10 years, because that's clueless. We weren't very good back then. But from the Spurs of the past couple of months, that's not what I expected. With all that momentum as well. And from you guys, don't get me wrong, I still think, bar City, you guys are the best footballing team in the country by a mile. You do play football the right way. I still thought we'd have the edge, mainly on the aggression side, and especially going back to how you guys turned up at our ground last year. That's probably the most pathetic Arsenal performance I've seen in my time from last year. That wasn't the Arsenal side, and to be honest, I didn't think there'll be much difference this year. But you guys proved me wrong, and you guys wanted it a lot more than we did on the day.
Dan, what about yourself? How did you feel in the build up to the game? Did you have confidence that Spurs were going to come to the Emirates and pick up a result?
No, I picked out a 1-1 draw before the game, and that's just factoring home advantage. And obviously home advantage.
Just factoring home advantage. So that's
the only reason I didn't fancy a Spurs win. But it's not a secret. I don't particularly rate Arsenal's team this season. I don't rate it last season, and I don't rate particularly many of their players at the top level. There's no reason why a Tottenham side, player for player, shouldn't be giving Arsenal a game and coming out on top. Obviously, there are other elements to a football match that come into play. In a derby, particularly, you talk about the challenges in the first 2 or 3 minutes. You know, a home side with a crowd behind them in a derby game. I'm expecting Arsenal to come out on top. Spurs weathered that storm a little bit and then started to come into the game. But like was just said, it was clear quite early that we weren't at the races for whatever reason. And there shouldn't be any excuses for that. We should be able to overcome that. But when teams start to get in the ascendancy in a home derby game, it is like having an extra man on the pitch, and we throw in a referee as well, an extra couple of men, and so on and so forth. But you've got to, in a derby game, you've got to factor in home advantage. It's a big thing when things start going well. It's a lot's made of Spurs' away record against the Big Six. It's an absolute myth. You look at all the other sides' away record against the top six. It's as bad, if not worse, than Tottenham's. It's just a convenient narrative at the moment that's the fashionable thing to point at because Spurs are doing well in other areas. I thought we'd get something. We didn't. I think there's a human nature that when things start to look not so rosy in the other camp, it's a bit of a lift for you. So if you're Arsenal and you're coming into the game, Spurs are having a reasonable spell. It's clear if you're a player, you can see that Spurs' best player is not moving freely. Suddenly you're getting a bit of joy down the left-hand side. Ozil's putting in tackles in his own box, which is absolutely unheard of. Suddenly you look around and think, well, actually, we're going to win this today. And your performance goes from strength to strength beyond that. So I just think it was one of those days where Arsenal turned up. I don't think Spurs were as bad as everyone making out. I don't think Arsenal were as good as everyone made out. They played better on the day and deserved to win. But, I think everyone's got a tendency to overreact in these sort of games.
Okay. Let's move on to the referee's performance because much has been made of that in the sort of the post-mortem of this one. Lee, from an Arsenal point of view, you'll know as well as I do that going into the game, we were all horrified that Mike Dean had been given the nod. What did you make of his performance?
I thought he had a blinding game. No, honestly, when I look at Mike Dean, people said this before the game. Mike Dean's this and Mike Dean's that. We beat Spurs 5-2 and Mike Dean played. He was refereeing that day. So I don't think it was too much. Look, I've heard Spurs for the last 3 weeks go on about how great they were against Real Madrid. And rightly so. I thought they was absolutely outstanding against Real Madrid. But if the referee and linesmen were doing their job properly, the first goal wouldn't have been given. And who knows what would have happened. But all of a sudden, Spurs fans are turning around and trying to take a little bit of consolation from the first goal. Listen, it wasn't a free kick. Let's be honest, it wasn't a free kick. And possibly it was offside as well. But I honestly think that we was I think so much on top in the game on that day that you can't really say, but I don't think it would have mattered if I'll be honest. Going just back to what you're saying about the Arsenal Spurs games, and this is what it does miss me a little bit about the Spurs games. I think that under Pochettino, Spurs have been the more dominant side over the last 3 years, and if you look at it, the fixtures go that Spurs have won 2 of them, Arsenal have won 1, and the others have been drawn. So when you look at it, and this is how I looked at it going into that game, as good as Spurs have been over the last 3 years, there's not a lot of difference between the two teams, and it is fine margins, and I really do believe that. I think that when we went to Spurs last season, I have to agree with the guys. You know, it's probably the worst we've ever played that day. But the game before that was a 2-2, and I thought we was playing quite well. And then Coquelin got sent off, and then I think it was Oliver refereeing that game. I think Dyer done a definite second booking, and it didn't happen. Luckily we come back to 2-2. But there are fine little margins in the refereeing decisions, and listen, we got a little bit of luck on that one, and you know, I felt that he was a bit book happy with us. If I'm going to be critical of Mike Dean,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
If I'll be honest,
I disagree completely with that. Obviously,
yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, if I'll be honest, he should have booked Xhaka. I think it was for one when Spurs were breaking through in the. Was it Sissoko? He should have booked him for that one, and you know, and then maybe he could have been sent off for the second one. Whether he'd have made that tackle or not, it just seemed like that Xhaka was just going to go in with silly tackles until he actually got booked. So, but listen, I have to say that you know, the Spurs fans can go on about the refereeing decisions, but they don't go on about it when they're beating Real Madrid. It's the greatest day of their lives, you know what I mean, when they're beating Real Madrid. But, you know, the first goal shouldn't have stood. So when you have it one way, you can't have it the other. But listen, 2 weeks ago, I was complaining about Man City's offside goal. So, you know, I think you have to just take it. And I think that Arsene Wenger's right, that the standard of refereeing, whether it be Spurs, Arsenal, or whoever, is poor. I think we all agree on that. I think it's the standards going down. And if Mike Dean is one of the best referees in this league, then we've got problems.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dan, I know you were critical of Wenger's comments when he turned to the referees and went on about the referees. Now you were on the receiving end of it. Does he not have a point? What did you make of Mike Dean's performance?
I obviously didn't like it for obvious reasons. Look, I got annoyed once watching the game, and that was when Xhaka wasn't booked for the UFC move on Sissoko, because I knew how big a moment that was going to be. There are some players in certain games that you want to get booked early. Like, so if I was Arsenal and Aurier was playing, if he got booked in the first 20 minutes, you'd be over the moon, because you know he's the type of player who hasn't got a brain. Like, going back, Mauricio Tirico would be another one, Wanyama, Coquelin. There are just some players that when you're on a yellow card, you know they're not smart enough to do anything different, and Xhaka was one of those. So that was the one time in the first half I got cross, and it proved to be correct. That was a decision that annoyed me the most, to be honest, because you can debate decisions all day long, fraction the offside, debatable penalties. You get some stonewall penalties. You get some stonewall bookings, and that was one, and I couldn't understand why that wasn't given, to be honest. I just don't understand that. He was stood looking at it. I like to see certain decisions let go. Like, you don't want players booked early, but there are certain things like that. I couldn't understand that. I think Mike Dean... I think, obviously, the whole issue with the decision early on Ozil, where Vertonghen fell over ultimately.
Can I just interrupt you there as well, Dan? They didn't even show that incident on Match of the Day. They opted to leave that out of the highlights, and that is a really significant moment.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Spurs fan now, looking back, and I can pick and choose, I'd rather that was left than given. And if Arsenal went and scored and went 1-0 up after 10 minutes, then we'd have had a little bit longer to get back in the game, and Dean might not have tried to equalise for the rest of the match. I don't know if that had a factor in the ultimate decision. Look, what annoyed me about this one, like the second goal, I don't think it was offside. It may or may not have been, right? But the things I can look at and say, well, that's a tough decision for a linesman. I'm not interested in that. Like, if he was a centimetre offside or he wasn't, so be it. We'll take that on the chin. The goal, the headed goal, which was a really good header, by the way, that was offside. They annoy me a little bit more because it's a dead ball. It's not like a Manchester City situation where you've got two players running in opposite directions and a ball's playing at high speed, and you know, you're watching that on TV and you thought that was it Silva who pulled the ball back? You would have thought he was a mile offside, and then they played it back and he was only a centimetre. So you can kind of see the tough job the linesman's got there. When it's a dead ball, I've got a bit of an issue with it because what else are you looking at? That frustrates me a little bit, and I think it goes back to what I've said about assistant referees. I think linesmen are so bad at running the line; they shouldn't be allowed to do anything else. You got that linesman; he's probably looking for shirt pulling or someone touching someone's arse or wherever it may be, and just focus on getting that right, which is a floated ball in the box. But what annoyed me about the Dean decision, this is going to sound really biased, and I apologise in advance. But there are some decisions, rightly or wrongly, you just get. Like a foul on the goalkeeper. Even though it's not a foul, you get it. I think when a centre-half falls over with an attacker chasing him down, they're ones, for whatever reason, you just get them. I don't think it's right, but I think that's what happened. And I think deep down, Dean knew he got it wrong. Now, the thing that annoyed me about the free kick was Dean, and you see me in the camera, he went like that. Yeah, so he's pulled the top of his shirt to show the defender what he'd seen. But that didn't happen. Like, I can get a referee missing something, but how can you see something that hasn't happened? What has entered your head and why? Psychologically, for me, it doesn't make any sense. He's actually pointed to the specific part of his shirt that a mysterious event occurred, as if he was trying to convince himself why he gave it. I think he got himself into a muddle. I think the occasion got the better of him on the day. He's not the worst referee in the league by a long shot, but he got himself into a muddle, and obviously the first goal is crucial in any game, whether you're behind or not. And obviously it's caused us a problem, and we couldn't really recover from that, unfortunately.
Pani, do we need technology in football?
Harry, we've had this debate between mates and stuff like that, and on other podcasts. And me personally, if they can do it in a way where it doesn't slow our game down, which is one thing I love about football more than any other sport, it's constantly running, it's quick, there's no long commercial breaks whilst the decision's being made and all that bollocks that they have in the States and all that rubbish, or referees talking in rugby between each other and looking at a screen. If they can do it in a quick way, which I don't think should be an issue, because if you actually go to any Premier League team, now I know it's from Spurs, there are about 18 to 20 little monitors all over the dugout. It doesn't take, and you got the fifth official or fourth official, what they're bloody called nowadays. You got them standing right there. That instant replay comes up as soon as that chance has been done. It will take less than 5 seconds to have a little look. Right, if it's a tight decision like an offside, fair enough, take another 10 seconds. It shouldn't slow the game down at all. So, by doing it that way, then yeah, I'm all for it. Going back to what you were saying about Mike Dean and about arrogance and Spurs fans being arrogant, the most arrogant person in that stadium is Mike Dean. I can't stand the geezer, and I know a lot of Spurs fans make the jokes, oh, he's a Spurs fan. Even when he was supposedly helping us out, can't stand the guy. It's all about him. It's all about me. As Dan said about pulling a shirt, where he got that from, no one knows. I wasn't even sitting too far from the Arsenal fans, and we were speaking to him at half time, and even they were like, there was no way it was a foul. And we're watching it from the same way. From where we were sitting, we couldn't see the screen anyway because we had the shelter bit on top, so we had no second view, but you could tell. And the disappointing thing is we've got a decent centre-back who's made a quality challenge against probably one of the top 5 players in the Premier League, which to be honest, I've never seen Sanchez have not a quiet game, but I've never had him have a battle with another centre-back like he did on Saturday. I thought Al Sanchez done himself credit for a 20-year-old to battle it out with a top player. And when you're getting discipline, say, for making a quality challenge, then you do feel a bit hard done by. But to be honest, whether that goal went in or whether the offside was offside, which I personally I don't think Lacazette was offside, but even if it was, yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. It was a tight decision. But the way we're playing, Wenger wouldn't have changed it at half time. It's like, or towards the end of the game, taking your player off. We wouldn't have won the game anyway. We could still be playing till today, and we wouldn't have scored at the Emirates. Nothing was going to change. So the only thing I feel hard done by is the fact that one of our players, a 20-year-old, has made one of the best challenges this season, and he's got an arrogant twat in black blowing his whistle, getting all excited, and pulling him back. And the worst thing about it is, as Dan said, was pulling his shirt. At least don't do anything. Just blow the whistle or book the guy, whatever you want to do, and walk away. Don't trying to tempt in front of the camera and saying, I've seen what he's done, when we've got it completely wrong. He's done the complete opposite. So, yeah, I just don't like Mike Dean, but I don't like any ref, to be honest.
Lee, these guys are obviously still a bit emotionally drained, shall we say, by Mike Dean's performance. In terms of refereeing and going forward, you know, the other big leagues around Europe have now announced that those who don't have it already will be taking up video technology next season. Do you think, having been on sort of the end on both sides of it in the past couple of weeks, do you think it's needed? It's got to that point now, hasn't it? Surely. Yeah,
I think something like those offsides are there. So my biggest worry is, say, like something like or two things. You can't the decision when Ozil and Vertonghen, you can't use a video. Once he's made that decision, that's it. You can't say, oh well, no, stopped. We're going to have to make a decision there, because the actual, you can't rectify what would happen. You know, we don't know what would have happened. Obviously, Ozil would have put it across, but he could have missed it. You don't know. So that's where I think is very, very tough. And I just think with I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna be a little bit controversial here with this Everton player that's just been done for diving. I've watched it 4 or 5 times. I can't say that you. I think, in my personal opinion, there's definite contact there. Does he go down easy? Yes, but is it? I can't say whether that's a dive or not. Now they're saying that they've got a unanimous three people that have said that it was. I don't believe that. You know, I played the game. I'm saying that you don't know. There's only one person that knows whether he dived or not, and that's the player. So how can a video do that? And then you go to, you know, I watch a lot of American football. You show things on there. They have to show it about 50 times. And then after 50 times, they still don't know. So I think it is, you know, I think it's fantastic, the goal line technology. And I do think that the offsides can be done. I really do. But other than that, I think you just got to leave it to the referee, the other stuff. I really do. And also, some of those little controversies, it does give you a little bit of conversation coming back on the coach on the way home, or in a car or something like that. If it's all done and dusted pretty much like that, you know, I don't know. We wouldn't be talking about certain things now. But I do like some of it. But again, as I say, like, you know, like the penalty decisions and that, I think you've got to leave that to the referee.
Fair enough. From my point of view, I've always been a big sort of advocate of it. The guys will tell you I'm always blabbing on about it. But I just think, like you said, the offsides, you can do that. That's a science. Is it on? Is it off? It's fact, yes or no. There's no room for opinions in that. You either are or you aren't. In terms of like fouls and stuff, you know, the way I'd like to see it done is maybe every goal that's scored, just take 30 seconds while the player's celebrating to review it. And for example, in this case, you know, you review the Mustafi goal anyway, and you find it's offside, you would catch that. If it's come directly from a set piece, maybe look at the set piece as well. Should it have been given? That will take 30 seconds, but it takes out such a sort of injustice in the game. And do you know what? If it takes 10 seconds longer to restart the play, but things are correct, I'm all for that. I get that you can't stop the game in the middle of the centre circle to check if something's a foul, but anything that leads to a goal, in my opinion, should be reviewed, because there's big things at stake now. You know, there's Champions League qualification, which can mean fortunes to clubs. There's relegations at stake. There's so many things at stake in the game now. There's so much money in the game, and I just find it absolutely criminal that they can't pull their fingers out and find a solution to this. Mesut Ozil proved that he can put a shift in when necessary. Lee, does that make his recent form all the more frustrating?
Listen, you're going to get the arguments for Mesut Ozil. I think, you know, he was sublime at Everton a few weeks ago. He's had some good performances. You know, he was poor against Manchester City, but so was everybody else. But we asked him to step up on Saturday, and he did. You know, and I honestly think that, you know, I've got Spurs mates, and they've been very critical of Dele Alli this year. And, you know, if he'd have put in a performance, if Ozil would have put in that performance like Dele Alli, which is what Jamie Carragher said, there would be a lot more, oomph about him, whatever. I think he's just got to let Ozil play. He's a good player. There's no two ways about it. I've seen him do things with a ball which I could only ever dream of doing. He's got ability, he's got talent. I think that if he puts in that work rate that he puts in, like he did on Saturday, then I think the fans would be fine about it. I don't know how the Spurs guys feel. I didn't think Eriksen had one of his better games on Saturday, but I tell you what, he still worked hard. He still put a shift in. You're not going to play well every week. But what you can do is work hard and put a shift in. And, I thought that Eriksen worked. I didn't go for him. I didn't think he'd get a lot of the ball, but he was chasing, trying to win balls. And I think that as a fan, you'd accept that. And I think that's where Mesut Ozil gets a little bit of criticism, because there are times when he doesn't. Listen, he was tracking back. He made tackles in. Like Eriksen got the ball. I think he got been a bit fed up with Eriksen getting all the plaudits, I think, because Eriksen got the ball on 2 or 3 occasions and he busted a gut to get back at him and tackle him. Now, he hasn't done that, Harry, as you well know, for many a season. So why has he done it against Spurs? We'd have to say that I'm glad he did. But, he shouldn't be doing it just because it's Spurs. He should be, if he didn't play well at Man City, put a shift in. And I think that's where the criticism comes of him.
Okay, De Luca, Dele Alli didn't have a great game, did he? Do you agree with that? Do you think that Dele Alli would have sort of, had it been Ozil performing the way Dele Alli did, the world would have been coming to an end?
Yeah, probably, but a lot of that comes with the whole package. So Mesut Ozil's arrived in this country as a world winner. He's cost £42 million. He's come from Real Madrid. People with Mesut Ozil, when he first arrived in England, people, understandably maybe, over-exaggerated his okay performances. So, I like a Mesut Ozil to... I don't rate him particularly highly. I think he's got a great deal of ability, but you show that regularly enough, then it's no good. When he plays well, it's brilliant to watch, but it's too few and far between. But I liken him to like the guy in PE at school who likes Star Wars. He doesn't actually want to play football at all, and then he makes a 5-yard pass, and everyone's like, "Oh, well done, Mesut." It's like that for me with him. Everything is over amplified all the time. So likewise, when he has a bad game, he's going to be criticised by his rivals more. And I think there's a lot of that with it. And I think he split to Arsenal. Obviously, the majority of Arsenal fans will rate him, but no one at Spurs criticised Alexis Sanchez today. Even when Sanchez has his bad games, and he had a few last Christmas, probably January time, when Sanchez had a little wobble, But there's a reason. There's no smoke without fire, is there? There's a reason why Mesut Ozil attracts this level of criticism quite regularly, particularly from me. Dele Alli, he's having a bad season. He's having a bad season. He's set himself quite a high bar over the last couple of years. Wow. When some players pick on anyone, Andy Carroll, and you say the price tag's too big. Obviously, Dele Alli doesn't come with that yet, so he'll probably get away with a little bit more than the likes of Mesut Ozil, and that's just life, and everyone will have to accept that. The thing with Dele Alli is, I think there's a stop-start element of being banned for a few big Champions League games. I think that probably plays on his mind. Then you've got the fact that he's being massively outperformed. He's a petulant bloke, Dele Alli. Like, you can see that about his character. He's a bit of a whinge. He likes to be the big I am, I think. And he's been massively outperformed this year by Eriksen and Kane. And I think he's probably put him out of joint a little bit. He's still put in a couple of decent performances. Tonight in Dortmund, he had a pretty bad game again, but he still made a key contribution to the ultimately won us the game. So with Dele Alli, he's got a lot of rough edges that he needs to wind out of his game. But there's a talented player there. As a Spurs fan, I'll forgive him a few more bad performances just because you can see there's a lot of talent in there, and he's by no means a finished article.
Okay, Pani, Dele Alli has signed with super agent Mendes this week. Do you think that had an impact on him? Do you think Dele Alli's readying himself for a move away from White Hart Lane? I mean, why else would you sign with the super agent who's renowned for feeding players to the top clubs, not Spurs?
Yeah, nah. He wants a bigger contract, us, mate. Nah, his head's been turned 1,000,000%. And you listen, you can't blame him. When these teams are talking about you, I was lucky enough to go to Bernabeu a couple of weeks ago for Spurs, and we done a little tour thing before the game. And just walking into like the museum bit alone, mate, when you see the amount of stuff. Now, if it is true that, well, it must be true. That's the only reason why Mendes will take him. That if they are looking to take him on, then he's going to go. And to me, his performances do look like his head's turned already. Which, as Lee said, you know what? I don't. Yes, when the player's world class, when we had the likes of Bale, he was an absolute genius, for example. But all I want from my 11 players every week is just to work and give 100%. That's all I ask. And the likes of Dele for the past, well, for the whole season, he hasn't done that enough. Eriksen as well. Eriksen, for me, I know I had an argument with a couple of Spurs fans at the game on Saturday, saying my argument was he never plays well against the big teams. And someone turned around and said, yeah, but he scored against Chelsea and he scored against Man City. Yeah, he's contributed to a goal, but what's he done for the rest of the 89 minutes? He doesn't. For me, he doesn't do enough in the big games. Which, again, it comes to effort. And for example, with Dele, I don't expect Dele to go past 100 players like Bale used to. And I don't expect Eriksen to win a challenge like someone like who can I say? Someone like Sanchez, for example, to win a challenge. That's not his game. The same way I don't expect Ozil. For me, any Arsenal fan who doesn't rate Ozil is absolutely nuts, because that guy does everything you'd want as a creative player. He does his job. We never signed Ali to be too. He's aggressive, but I didn't get him to do the defensive duties. He was scoring goals almost every week for MK Dons. So as long as he does his job for us, I don't mind. At the minute, I don't feel he's doing that. Every time he gets the ball, he's doing his little flicks and trying to nutmeg everyone or trying to chip it over someone's head. Just play your game. So, yeah, me personally, I think his head's turned. He's become a bit of a commercial act at the minute. All these adverts and shit like that. Just concentrate on your football, son. That's what you need to do.
And perhaps that has affected his recent performances. Going around the panel just quickly, starting with you, Lee. Who was your man of the match on Sunday? And Mesut Ozil was given the award. Would you have picked him?
No, I went for Mustafi. I thought Mustafi was brilliant on the day. You know, listen, he played really well at Mesut Ozil, but I just think that sometimes, you know, as the boys have just said there, you know, with some things with Mesut Ozil, if it comes with the territory, when he plays really well, they go overboard, and I think that when he plays really bad, they go overboard. And I felt that he played really well on Saturday. Yeah, you know, he pulled a few strings and all that. I thought, to be honest, he come into the game when the game was a little bit stretched, like when where I say that we were sort of playing into our hands, we was going on a counter attack. Tottenham come at us a few times, and you know, someone like Mesut Ozil's got the quality to pick you off, and that's what he done. But I thought from minute 1 to minute 90, Mustafi for me was outstanding, and for Tottenham, as we've already said it, I thought Sanchez looks a real find at 20 years of age. Is a top player.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I went for Mustafi as well from an Arsenal point of view. And I have to hold my hands up here because I was critical of Mustafi. I've been critical of him quite often in the past. He's always reminded me a little bit of Thomas Vermaelen in the sense that he can be a bit rash at times. He always wants to sort of play on the front foot, always wants to get up behind the attacker, and he's always snapping at their heels. And that's great, but sometimes I feel like you just need to drop off and defend properly and hold your position and so on. But yeah, I thought he was excellent on Saturday, and I actually came away from the game saying to everybody, you know what, I was wrong. He can put those performances in when he needs to. Again, Spurs' point of view, yeah, I thought Sanchez was brilliant. Fantastic defender. He's strong, he's quick, he's got everything. He really gave Sanchez a hard time, like Pani mentioned earlier on. Sanchez wasn't getting much change out of him. So, yeah, I'll go with those two as well. De Luca, man of the match, in your opinion? I know you was absolutely horrified when it was announced that Mesut Ozil was man of the match.
I mean, I expected it for reasons I've just discussed. It's the Operation Star Wars. Obviously, he's got a 7 out of 10 performance. So we'll give him the Ballon d'Or because it's Mesut Ozil. I think Davinson Sanchez was very good, but you can't be the man of the match if you've lost 2-0, and that's fair enough. I tell you, I was impressed with. He's a player. I think he's a good player, but he's not quite ripped any trees up yet. But I was impressed with Lacazette. I thought Lacazette's movement was superb. I thought the way he pulled defenders out of the way to make space was absolutely massive for Arsenal. Obviously, heavily involved in the second goal as well. But no, I was impressed with Lacazette's display from an Arsenal point of view. Mustafi played well. There's still part of me knows that he's marking a bloke with one leg. So I'm very harsh. It takes a lot to impress me, as you know. I can't go too overboard with that. Kolasinac played very well, as we said at the beginning. I think he was tactically integral. I think a game like that, people who have contributed tactically have got to get more of a nod. So Kolasinac or Lacazette for the way they pulled players about, created space, and basically fed into Arsenal's game plan.
Okay, Pani, what about yourself? Man of the match.
I would have gone with Mustafi as well, mate. Whether he's got one leg or not, he's marking probably one of the informed strikers in the country. And he didn't give him a sniffing. But one player that I actually thought would have a really, really good season was Xhaka. And last year I thought he was awful. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think he had the greatest game, but he was just an absolute pain in the arse. And he was I know he could have got sent off, and maybe he should have got sent off. But he was breaking up play, and he was giving away a little trip there where he knew he wouldn't get booked. And even when he was on a yellow card, he was still doing it, and he was just breaking up play. So if we were ever going to have a bit of a momentum and do something, he was just doing a little. People say it's a dirty tactic. I actually like it. He was playing the game. He was stopping us from playing. So I didn't think he was a man of the match, but I thought he was one of your important players, which was quite hidden in the game. But for us, it would have been Sanchez, easy. But yeah, you can't give it to someone who's just been done 2-0. So I would have given probably to Mustafi, mate. Unfortunately.
Okay. Brilliant. Guys, it's all been pretty civil up until now. So I'm going to throw something in there that is sure to spark a bit of debate. Alan Shearer came out and said that we keep hearing about the potential of Tottenham and their manager, but to be classed as a good team, they have to win a trophy soon. What do you boys make of those comments? De Luca, do you want to start off on this one?
Does Alan Shearer want to tell us which trophy? I suppose would be my question to Alan Shearer. Obviously, we've played second string in the Capital One Cup or whatever it's called this year. What's it called? Carabao.
That's the one.
Yeah, well, we've played second string in that, so we're not interested in that, rightly or wrongly. So we don't want to win it. That's our club's view. So what the fans think is irrelevant. We're obviously not interested. So has Alan Shearer tipped us to win the Premier League at the beginning of the season? No, he hasn't. Is he tipped us to win the Champions League? No, he hasn't. So that leaves the FA Cup. And the FA Cup, obviously, as you boys know, it's 7 games. If you get a reasonable draw, you've got half a chance of getting to the later stages, and then you need a few things away. So what he's saying, 3 seasons, and I know you said anything. I think we've achieved remarkable things as a football club when you consider where we've come from, some of the things we've had to put up with along the way. What Alan Shearer is effectively saying is for that group of players to be considered great, you need to have a favourable FA Cup draw and a bit of luck along the way. Is that our good team to judge nowadays, Alan Shearer? Really? That is BBC's top pundit. That is his way that he judges greatness as to whether a team like Tottenham, who are going to be outspent every year by idiots who spend £500 million, we're going to be judged if we're fortunate enough to, have the easiest FA Cup draw every single round and get a few refereeing decisions in like semi-finals and finals. If that's how football's judged, Alan Shearer, then quite frankly, I'm not interested in trophies.
Lee, isn't there a sense that Spurs need to achieve something soon? Because, it's all good finishing in the top four. We know what it feels like. We know what it's like to make the top four year in, year out. But nothing quite matches that feeling of coming away from Wembley with a trophy, does it? The whole day out, the whole experience.
No, I think that, listen, we was getting top four for 10 years and we was getting pillared because we hadn't won a trophy, and then when you win a trophy, you still get pillared. It's just one of those things, The fact of the matter is, the FA Cup, I think, is the realistic one now for the likes of Arsenal, Spurs. I have to be honest, when you look at it and sit there and be honest about it, when a club spends £170 million on fullbacks, you've got a real difficult job to go and win the league. Manchester City will win the league this season because they've spent the most money. Manchester United will probably come second because they've spent the second amount of most money. Chelsea will probably come third because they've spent the money. And it's as simple as that. You go to Chelsea. What were Chelsea before Abramovich come along? They were, you had players from Chelsea leaving Chelsea to go to Spurs because Spurs was a bigger club, and we had more chance of winning things there. But the fact of the matter is that since he's come in there, they've won premierships. In my lifetime, they'd never won a league. And it's just the way that it goes. But when you go to the FA Cup, there's a great point there. You do need that little bit of luck in the FA Cup. For instance, third round, you could pull out Man City away, and that's it. You're out. Arsenal last season pulled out a very lucky couple of draws against non-league opposition in Sutton and
Lincoln.
I
when we was poor.
Arsenal. No,
I'm not saying that. What I'm just trying to say is that at that moment in time, Arsenal were in a poor run. But we had that little bit of luck that we had that draw. But when we come to the semi-finals, I remember going into the draw. I don't want to get Tottenham because they was in good form at the time. Didn't want to get Chelsea because they was really good. The one team that I wanted last season in the semi-final was Man City because I felt you could get at their fullbacks. When that draw come out, it was always going to be tough, but we got through it. And listen, the game against Tottenham, Chelsea could have gone another way. And I think that like Spurs, like what Arsenal have done in the past, throwing away the League Cup by playing. Your second team. Somewhere along the line, you've got to do that if you're in the Champions League. I get that because, for instance, like Spurs have played Saturday, and then they've had to play Tuesday, and then they've got to go again Saturday, and then they've got to go again in the midweek against whoever they have, because it's a Premiership week next week. So somewhere along the line, you've got, you can't keep all these players playing, and we've had this for so many years, and it is frustrating. But when you're in the Champions League, it is a fantastic competition to be in. Don't get me wrong. We've took it for granted, if you like, over the last few years. But when you're in the Europa League, and you think about it, I'd rather be in the Champions League than the Europa League. As simple as that. But there is the thing of winning trophies, and it's up to Spurs fans, isn't it? At the end of the day, I don't give a monkeys whether I don't want Spurs to win things. I'll be honest. So, if that's the route they want to go down, good luck to them. I will say this that I will say this that the only problem is, which we had it about 3 or 4 years ago, Harry, when people were saying, "Oh well, are that players going to leave because they want to win something?" And I look at someone like Kyle Walker that has left Spurs this season, doubled his money, and is going to win the Premiership. And there are other players at Spurs going to look at that, and that's from a Spurs point of view. That's what I would be fearful of, because we had it, Harry, with players doing that. Like Sammy Nesri leaving, going double their money, and also not only doubling your money but winning trophies as well. And that's the difficulty that Spurs have got. I do think, though, in Spurs' favour, I do feel that Harry Kane just seems a little bit more like that he's more of a loyal person and probably will. I don't see him really leaving. If he was to leave Spurs, I don't know how the guys would fit. I don't think it'd be for another English club. I don't think that he would go to another English. I think that he may go for a different venture to Barcelona or Real Madrid. But I do see Danny Rose going at the end of the season or in January to Man United. You know, but listen, you know, you guys might not agree, but if they win the FA Cup this season, Spurs, would that stop Danny Rose going to Man United next season? I don't know. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, but from a Spurs' point of view, the fans, you know, it would be nice to go to Wembley and win a game, and at the end of it, get a trophy. They're not doing that at the moment.
That's right.
Do you think the thing to Shearer though? Because it's just the most lazy comment in the world. You've got to to win a trophy to be considered a good team. So
well, that's rubbish. You know that.
Yeah, of course it's rubbish. So if Spurs, for example, which we can't figure out, if we won the League Cup this year, is that it then? Everything's all right?
Of course not.
No, exactly. So,
it's not the same with us, is it? We won the FA Cup last season. It's still not right.
No, it's a nice day out, and we haven't had many in our lifetimes. Me and Pav, it's a nice day out. But you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the Champions League as a concept because of what it does to the rest of football. But last Wednesday at Wembley, I had a pretty nice day out. No one got a trophy at the end of it, but you know, I enjoyed it. I had a nice day out when we annihilated Manchester City 4-1 a couple of years ago. Like that was a good night out. Yeah, we didn't get a trophy at the end of it. I just think it's, unfortunately, Tottenham, we're still not in the club yet. We're still not in the big club, the traditional top four, or Manchester City have broken in with their millions and they're giving something back to sponsors, and we're not in there yet. So there's still I think this state of confusion amongst some top pundits, like how are Tottenham still up there? Because I mean, let's be fair, we've been floating around the top 5 or 6 for 10 seasons now. I think 9 of the last 10 seasons we finished 5th or higher. So people look at our wage bill, they look at our small little stadium, they look at our players leaving for bigger clubs, and they think, well, why are we not there? So rather than actually just give it the credit it deserves, it's, well, we're going to pick on Pochettino's away record when it's better than actually 4 of the other top 6 managers, including Wenger, including Mourinho. Even like Conte last year. So Chelsea won 30 games out of 38. So there's only 8 games they failed to win in a whole season. One of them was away at Spurs, one was away at United, one was away at Arsenal. They drew away at Liverpool. And people are going to bother to have a dig at Pochettino's away record. And I think the trophy things, it's just the same sort of thing. It's just like,
but surely,
what else can we have a pop at?
Surely there comes a point though where you need to win. I mean, what's the point in having honours in football if fans are going to just turn around and say, do you know what? Actually, we are good. But then you might as well scrap trophies. You might as well scrap the FA Cup. You might as well scrap the Carabao Cup.
Well, the FA Cup.
What you're saying,
the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup is basically scrapped anyway. It's been scrapped by clubs who don't want to play in it. The FA Cup, which unfortunately is in such a state that you're absolutely delighted if you win it, but if someone else wins, it doesn't actually bother you. I remember like Arsenal winning the FA Cup in 2002 or 3. You beat Chelsea, the only Ray Parlour game, and I was furious. I was absolutely furious about that. When it happened last year, I was like, well, I wasn't actually that bothered. I was like, oh, well, you know, they played pretty well and they've won another FA Cup and blah, 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 blah. So that these cups, they've almost been scrapped anyway, Harry. They've been scrapped by clubs who deprioritise them.
These cups have been used in the past by the likes of Mourinho, like who's a manager who wins things. We know that. The likes of Mourinho in the past have used these cups as the catalyst, as the start. And unless Tottenham get that start and that kick on and that belief that they can win things, then this Tottenham team for me isn't going anywhere. It will stay at the level it is, achieving top 4 with a risk of maybe dropping out of it. You know, in my opinion, Tottenham, as much as you
so basically we'd be like Arsenal.
No, it's not true at all. It's not true at all.
In a league respect, so what you're saying is,
but it's not just. But you don't just compete in the league, do you? You have cup competitions as well. If you look back in history, if you look in 10 years' time, we're looking back. Arsenal won 3 trophies in 4 seasons. Spurs won absolutely nothing. You don't get a trophy for putting the pressure on. What are we going to remember this Spurs team for? Without silverware,
I don't know.
This Spurs team will
remember?
Die in the memories of everybody because,
like the Dutch teams in the 70s.
Yeah, but you'll always look back at the Dutch team in the 70s and say they were missing that cherry on top. Anyone who knows anything about football looks back at those teams and says, do you know what? They were a good side, but they were missing that final piece of the jigsaw. And that's what's going to happen to Spurs. It's a shame. I absolutely hate Spurs, but it's a shame that the best Spurs team that's been around in God knows how many years will be remembered for achieving nothing. Like, there has to be some ambition amongst your supporters, some desire to go on and win a trophy. Pani, I don't know what do you make of this whole...
Right. The way I see it, mate, sorry about that before, mate, I lost connection as well, but the way I see it, what did Shearer exactly say? Because I never actually heard
Shearer's quote was, "We keep hearing about the potential of Tottenham and their manager, but to be classed as a good team, they have to win a trophy soon." Right.
Pochettino's been at Spurs for how many? What's this? His 5th season? What's it?
4th.
Fourth. Right. Before that guy came in, we finished 4th once. Now, this is where he needs to stop comparing us to the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal. You're coming to me now that's Premier League, let alone competed. Well, from the days when I was a kid going to Spurs, it was finishing 15th, finishing 14th, 12th. I remember getting excited as a kid watching Spurs against Kaiserslautern in the UEFA Cup. He can't compare us to the rest of the top 4, top 5. For me, what Pochettino's done is a miracle. To see my team competing, yes, we didn't win nothing at the end of it, but to see us finish, I don't know, 3rd when Leicester won it, which we should have finished 2nd. We ballsed up against Newcastle. If anything, we should have actually gone all the way and won the title. And then last year, finishing 2nd. If he can't see that being an achievement, yes, we've gone home with nothing in the cabinet. But from a supporter's point of view, I don't know what more Shearer wants to see from our manager, personally. From a player's point of view, though, at least spot on. Now, a player's career is very short, and all that matters is trophies. Because I'm going to be a Spurs supporter for the next, well, till I die, hopefully for a while. Now, from a player's point of view, they're only going to be a Spurs player, for example, or a footballer for the next 10 years. So they need to win them quick. So from a footballer's point of view, it's completely different. But if he's saying about, with Spurs fans' opinions about we have to win this, we have to win that, I'm not saying I don't want to win nothing for the next 10 years. Of course I do. But what he's achieved in the last 4 years is massive. Now, yeah, the next thing in the next couple of years will be trying to break into that top 2. Now,
but
for me personally, I feel we've missed our chance. I think our chance was when Leicester won it. I think now for the next couple of years will be City and United. But
it was a year too early. It was a year too early for us.
I totally get what you're saying. There's been progress, yes, no doubt about that. But to be classed as one of the top sides, you have to be competing for the top trophies.
Who classed us as the top side?
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, I hear constantly on our Facebook groups and all over the place, all over social media, Spurs are one of the best teams in England. No, you're not, because you don't win anything. You have to win stuff. You have to cross that line of you know, we're a good side to being a great side. You need to win trophies. If Manchester United and Jose Mourinho don't win the Premier League title in the next 2-3 years, he'll be classed as a failure. And that is the difference between the very elite and where Spurs are at the moment. And even Arsenal, even we have higher standards than Spurs because of what we've seen in the past. Rightly or wrongly, that's how it is. The point is that for you guys to become an elite club, you need to scrap this rubbish of, oh, but we were finishing 15th 10 years ago. Forget that. You've got some of the brightest young players in the country at the moment. Now it's time to push on, kick on, make the additions that you need to make to the squad and prove that Spurs can be up there with the top. Until that happens, for me, Spurs are no better than Arsenal. the talk of a power shift is absolute nonsense. Unless you start winning things, there won't be a power shift. Lee, what do you think? Is there a power shift?
No, there's no power shift. The power shift is it's been going over a consistent thing over 20 years. I feel like I've got to stick up for Spurs. I don't want to here, but I'm gonna like, because I think you've got to look at Spurs over the last 3 seasons. Forget about trophies at the minute. They have done what, as an Arsenal fan, I would have wanted us to do, and that is that they've challenged for the league in the last 2 seasons. They've challenged it against a team from Leicester that have just done a miracle that will never happen again. And so unfortunately, like, you know, we can count ourselves in with that, Harry. We should have challenged, put in a better performances in that time around. And last season, you know, Spurs put in another fantastic season. Only that, you know, as we've just said, that Chelsea won 30 games last season. When does that happen? You know what I mean? So they've been a little bit unlucky that they've come along in the best 2 seasons that they've ever had. And they've just been done by freaks. And the 3rd season is going to be another one, because I think Man City are going to run away with it. I think with Spurs at this moment in time, and this is what annoys me about Spurs fans, is that they've come from nowhere from a manager, not saying nowhere, that's a bit harsh, but they've been knocking on the door. They've got a manager that's gone in there and done exceptionally well, and, you know, enjoy what you're doing. But it just seems to me, oh, well, we're this great team now, we're the best, we're this and we're that and we're whatever. Instead of just saying, do you know what, we're doing really well here, and just be content with that at the moment. Like, you know, I think it's, you know, to turn around, for Alan Shearer to turn around and say, right, it's all about winning trophies. Well, what was his Newcastle side like then when he played? They was a bloody good side, but did they win anything? No. But did they spend a lot of money? Yes, they did. They spent, you know, a lot of money at that time. Spurs can't compete, nor can Arsenal, with the likes of Manchester City and Chelsea. End of. You can't. Don't matter. Tottenham can go and build a stadium, 100,000 putting into their new stadium. They still would not be able to compete with Manchester City and Chelsea. Same with Arsenal. It don't matter if we go and build another stadium as big as Wembley, we cannot compete with them two, because they've got different financial clout to us. Now, what you have to say is, and this is what annoys me about football, Spurs, Pochettino has done a great job. You know, I fucking hate him because he's done a great job. Let's get it honest. He's done fantastically well. Tottenham are doing really, really well. Instead of applauding what they've done on a small budget and whatever, people have to go and try and dig at it and sort of trying to undermine what they're doing. You know what I mean? I.e., the same with Arsenal. Arsenal win 3 FA Cups in 4 years, and it gets undermined. Oh, that ain't quite good enough because you've got to be looking to win the league. Got to be that. Well, Manchester United have spent £180 million this year. Right? They're not going to win the league. Like, you know, so the only one team can win the league. You know what I mean? So if 5 teams, if Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea went and spent £300 million next year, right, and Manchester City went and spent 350, Manchester City win the league, is everybody going to say, oh, what a waste of £350 million? Because what will happen is someone's still got to come first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You know, so it's such a, you know, I look at it with Tottenham. You know, they're what I believe. You know, I mean, is they're a proper football club. They're a proper football club, like Arsenal. You know, if you hate Arsenal, if you hate Spurs, they're proper football clubs. They try to do it the proper way. They're not going to go in there and start throwing. You know, Arsenal and Tottenham will not spend, Harry, £170,000 a week on a fullback, like Manchester City have done with Kyle Walker. They're not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I'm going to I'll ask you guys. I don't want to see Bellerin on 180 grand a week. I wouldn't want Kyle Walker for 170 million pound, 170,000 pound a week. I wouldn't want it. You know, there's certain ways about going about doing things. And what I think with Spurs at the moment is that they've got a bloody good side. They're doing it with a manager. So straight away, and you know, Daniel's made a fantastic point there. You know what I mean? That last season, Chelsea won the league and they didn't win at one of the big 5. Didn't win at one of the big 5.
They beat City away, they did.
They did beat Man City. They beat them 3-1. Yeah, when it mattered, they got one result. So basically, what you got to do is win your home games and get one result away, and then beat all the others. But I don't give a monkeys if we went a year. We went a year one time, won the league, and we didn't beat Spurs in that league. You know what I mean? So what? We won the league. Sorry, I'll take that every time if it means winning the league. And I think that people get run away with this these pundits that are saying things like that. You know what I mean? They all love at the end of the day, all saying that Pochettino's a much better manager than Arsene Wenger and blah blah blah. And then because Arsene Wenger out tactics him on one occasion, let's get it right on one occasion, because the last 6 or 7 he's not. Oh, he's all made this and he's done this. Is he the manager to do this and do that? I think at the end of the day, Spurs fans have got to realise now that they're going to take a little bit of criticism because they're up there with the big boys. You're going to get criticised, and you just got to get on with it and deal with it. And if they don't win a trophy, long that may continue. And if even better, if the Spurs fans don't want it, long may that continue. But listen, they're going to be there for another couple of years yet, Harry, and we've got to get used to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. I just feel like football is now in 3 tiers. The Premier League is in 3 tiers now for me. You've got the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, the Chelseas that have got basically unlimited transfer funds. Then you've got that next bracket, which is your Arsenals, your Liverpools, your Spurses. And then you've got the rest of the division. Now, for me, however the table finishes, Arsenal sit at the top of that second tier as a club because of the honours they've been able to pick up along the way. And I just think that for Tottenham to really establish themselves in that bracket, they need to pick up honours, whether it's the League Cup, whether it's the FA Cup, whatever it is. It gives you that push. It gives you that status as a big club. You know, you're a Spanish player sitting on your couch in Spain and you get an offer from Tottenham or you get an offer from Arsenal. Well, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, Arsenal are winning things, Tottenham are not. That can be the deciding factor. That pushes a club on to that next level. And that's my fear for Spurs. If they don't do that soon, then all of this hard work will be undone. And I feel like when the money becomes an even bigger factor, and Man City and Man United have established themselves more under their current managers, Tottenham are going to fall further and further away. And that could be a route to build themselves as a club and hopefully attract better players. Well, not hopefully from my point of view, but
I think you've been a bit naive there in the sense that it seems to have shifted. Before being in the Champions League was the reason why a Spanish player would come and join.
That is another reason.
Right. So we're in that, and we're probably getting quite a bit of airtime, I would imagine, having won a group with a game to spare, which was a group we were going to finish bottom of. So we should be getting a bit of airtime there. The point is, if your standards are, well, to be, no matter where Arsenal finish, are always going to be bigger than Tottenham. Well, if that's the case, then fine, so be it. I won't get excited about it because Arsenal have probably won about 15 major trophies more than Tottenham. So even if we win a trophy every 2 years, that's going to take 30 years. I'll be too old to celebrate, so I don't really give a shit. If that's what the standards are, if that's how an Arsenal fan wants to view things for whatever reason, then
no. But Dan, we're not talking about the whole club's history.
Well,
because if that's the case, then Liverpool are number one, and I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when you look back over recent years, you can't say Spurs have achieved more than Arsenal, or they've closed the gap on Arsenal, and then look back over the last 5 years and see Arsenal have won 3 trophies and Spurs have won none. That's my point. You need to build on now. You need to make history in your current period, which you're doing really well.
I think there'll be a cycle. Teams have cycles, and Spurs' cycle has probably peaked at this particular time, depending on how far we go in the Champions League. It'll probably go further than Arsenal manage, which probably doesn't matter. I think we still have, actually. Are we the last North London side?
I hope you get a terrible draw in the next round.
Are we the last North London side to win a knockout game? Probably. Yeah, I think we are. So, but the point is, it's all irrelevant. It doesn't actually matter, because what Alan Shearer's saying, what you're saying, if we won the FA Cup for the next 3 seasons, would that make us a great club? No, it wouldn't. So, at the end of the day, it
would make you better than you are. It would improve your status. Of course, it would.
Not to me, really. It's like, it's a cup, the magic of the FA Cup.
We might as well scrap trophies then. Should we scrap trophies? Because if they don't matter, they don't. It's like you don't want to win them. That's what I don't get with Spurs fans.
No, it's Harry. It's whatever Tottenham do, it won't be good enough to some people. You're one of those people. There are lots of others out there. In that case, so be it then. If we're going to win the FA Cup, we're going to celebrate. The first thing I'm going to do is come home to a load of text and it will say, well, Arsenal won it 3 times. I'll be like, well, what was the point? Go and support me on a Saturday, enjoy it, take my kids and do what and if we win a trophy, so be it. What's the point of getting all vent up under the pressure? Nothing will be good enough for some people. Alan Shearer is one of them. There's others out there who they'll look like Lee said, and he's right. They'll look for reasons to have a dig. Look, Arsenal have a few years ago when going through a barren spell, look, people will find a reason to have a pop because they're not Chelsea and they're not signing players that actually make the Premier League money or whatever it may be. So if that's what the standards are, then so be it. I ain't going to lose any sleep.
Can I just jump in this? I've got to say this. I know the answers to this. Right? Are Chelsea a bigger club than Spurs?
Not for me. They're not. But
no, totally not. And then it doesn't matter how many trophies they win. There'll never be a bigger club than Spurs.
What do you define? How do you judge how big a club is? Are we looking at number of supporters?
Well, fan base. The bigger the stadium. You know, I look at you know, when I was growing up, you know, the big 4 teams in that were well, there would have been 5, but it'd been Manchester United, Arsenal, Spurs, Everton, and Liverpool. You know, Everton were a massive club going back in those days. You know. But I look at it and I feel like support is a big thing. I do think that Tottenham have got a big following. I do think that, in my opinion, I think that Arsenal are a bigger club than Spurs, but and it reflects on the size of the club and ground and whatever. But I've always associated Tottenham as a big club, always from growing up as a young kid. To now, I'd always, you know, I mean, you know, you get someone like Jason Cundy who goes on about Chelsea, blah blah blah. He left Chelsea to go to Spurs to try and win trophies. You know what I mean? People forget that.
I wish he didn't.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like, you know what I mean? But like, you know, and players like Mickey Hazard, for instance, left Tottenham to go to Chelsea to get more game time. You know. People forget all these sort of things, you know. Spurs have won trophies in the past. They won the FA Cup in '81, and was it 80 and 81, or 81 and 82? No, it's 81 and 82. Did it make them a bigger club than Manchester United because Man United didn't win the cups in those years? No, you know what I mean. Man United were always a bigger club. Arsenal have won the league in the last. They'll never be a bigger club than Man United. Never will be. You have to accept that. I think that, you know, winning trophies it's got to be something that's got to be important, but you have to be realistic as a Spurs fan and an Arsenal fan that the chances of Arsenal winning the league and the Champions League, you know, Tottenham have got a better chance of winning the Champions League than us this season, but are going to be a lot harder. You know what I mean? Who's favourites for the Champions League this season? It's not Barcelona, PSG. And why is it PSG? Because they've spent millions and millions of pounds. Barcelona will always be a bigger club than PSG, Harry.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. But where I'm coming from is, in 20 years' time, the way things are going, will Spurs be bigger than Chelsea? Because Chelsea have picked up a title on average, what is it, every 3 years in the last since their
in 20 years' time. In 20 years' time, everyone who has looked at football for the last 4 decades will be dead, and then you will have the Sky Sports babies, and they'll all be 40, and they won't actually remember Tottenham's success. But at the end of the day, that's life. You know, you look at Leeds United; they'll always be a big club for as long as I live. If they never get promoted again, Nottingham Forest will always be a big club. Like even teams like Huddersfield.
Nottingham Forest are a big club because of their European cups. That's my point. It's not the only factor when you're judging the size of a club, but it is a big factor. And you know,
Tottenham have won European cups. I don't want the European Cup,
but not in God knows how long. It's like when people go on about Newcastle.
More recently, Nottingham Forest, Harry. It's more recently Nottingham Forest.
But it's like people go on about Newcastle. Oh, what a big club Newcastle are. Well, I've never seen Newcastle win anything, so to me, they're not a big club. Like, there has to be there has to be a point where trophies come into it. That's what I feel anyway.
Harry, what would we have to do for you to think, all right, we're a top club?
That's the right question.
You'd need to qualify for the finish in the top 4 for a consistent period. Right. You know, like this is only the second. All right, you've done it another time, so it was 3 when you unfortunately missed out because of Chelsea. But this is only the third time.
Four times in 7 years we finished in the top 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. You're doing it, and you've done it for 4 years, whatever. One of them, unfortunately, you missed out. But you need to do it over a long period of time to establish yourselves as, people. Arsenal didn't make the Champions League. Everyone was in shock because they've established themselves in that position. If when Man United didn't make it, it was like, oh my God, Man United are not in the Champions League. That's the point you need to get to. You need to do it consistently. You need to compete for trophies consistently. And unfortunately, I think Tottenham are in real danger of missing out on the top 4 this year because they're taking obviously, maybe rightly so, they're prioritising the Champions League, but they're not strong enough, in my opinion, to have a real crack at both, and something's got to give. Anyway, guys, we've obviously overran, of course, but we got a couple of listener questions which I just want to put to you guys as well. Just give you brief thoughts on those. Lee, this one I'll put to you. This one's from Christopher Michael. The Arsenal fans believe they are better than Spurs just because of that one victory. I know Pani just asked me a similar question, but what would it take for you to say that Spurs have overtaken Arsenal?
Well, they've got to come above us for a few more years to say that. At the moment, I still think, forget about the result on Saturday. At this moment in time, Spurs are a better team than Arsenal because they come above us last season. They were second in the league last season. I think that they've got a very, very good defence at this moment in time, and I think at the end of the day, Spurs are probably shading us at the minute because they're a little bit more consistent. I believe that when Spurs go away from home or whatever, I feel that they can get results where I feel that we're not quite defensively solid enough yet. So I think that probably that's the reason at the moment. I think Tottenham, listen, Arsenal can beat anybody on their day, as we've proved on many occasions. But I think at this moment in time, I would say that Spurs are slightly better than us as a team because they're a little bit more consistent.
Okay, Pani, this one I'm going to put to you. This one is from George. Whose season would you have preferred to have had last year's, Arsenal's or Spurs's?
Spurs. Harry, I've never seen our team finish top 2. I've never seen us have a title race. Like for me, I know everyone's saying, "Oh, what trophy this, trophy that," and we didn't win anything. But from my perspective, or from Spurs fans' perspective, that's a massive thing. Now everyone's got different goals, different targets. Me personally, I believe we took on Pochettino for one reason only, to start fighting for that top 4, then top 3, then top 2. We'll win the league. As Lee's pointed out, the league is going to go to 3 teams, and it's the ones who are spending the money. But yes, it's nice to win the league, win the cup. Yes, it's nice to go to Wembley. We've been going every bloody week. I hate it, but. Last year for me, especially the fact that it was Chelsea as well. Now, I don't know. I'm one of those Spurs fans who I hate West Ham and I hate Chelsea. And the reason why I hate you guys is mainly because of family and friends and the tradition. But that fighting Chelsea for the title for me, that was me buzzing for the season. So I wouldn't change nothing apart from last year, apart from us winning the league in the end. So I would have to say last season for us, really. But at the same time, it goes with both ways. I don't know. You're winning a cup as well. If we were, for example, I'll give you a good example. Mourinho. Everyone moaned that United last year, they're finishing 5th or whatever it was. That guy won a treble if you class the Charity Shield. The guy won 3 trophies, and apparently he had a weak season. For me, that's a top season. But everyone's got their different targets. Man United is all silverware. Arsenal, you guys are still living in that 2004, 2002, whether it was 98. Where we'll be honest. Where you guys, you want to win leagues. You lot aren't happy finishing top 4. You guys aren't that happy winning FA Cups. You guys want to win a league. For us, finishing top 2 is a massive achievement. And then the next thing is, if we want to beat that, is to try and win a league. Try and get better than that.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to put this one to you. Who will finish higher at the end of the season, Arsenal or Spurs, and why?
I think Tottenham will edge it. I think they'll edge it.
How did I know you was going to say that?
No, I said it before the season. I said it last season. I didn't say it the season before, and it didn't happen. I think we'll edge it. I just think we've got better balance, i.e., we can defend. We've got a good midfield, and we've got a top goal scorer. And I think, apart from the top 6 sides away from home, which is no different to anyone else, I still think we can go anywhere and get a result if we play well. And I think we'll accumulate more points. I think it'll be a lot closer than last season. I don't think Arsenal will get any more points than last season. I just don't think Spurs will get as many. But I think we'll shade it, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. That brings us to the end of our North London Derby special. I want to thank the boys for joining us, of course. Lee, you're the co-host on another podcast, the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, how people can find it, and basically plug yourself?
Yeah, it was just it's on SoundCloud and iTunes. It was just like me and Craig do it. We're just pretending that we're in the pub, really, just talking about Arsenal and things like that, bit of banter and things like that. So that's what we do. Normally it's a pretty fun because when we have good results, but sometimes it can get a little bit heated when things ain't going well as well. So it's good fun. Just sort of like what you guys are doing here. It's all good fun.
Good stuff. And what's your Twitter handle, Lee?
Lee Mark Judges. So
lovely. And I believe the podcast one is Same Old AFC.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the one.
Get following, guys. Make sure you get following. Pani, do you want to give us your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's a bit of a long one, Harry, mate. Jeez, it's my full name.
Oh my God.
I'll let you whack it on Facebook, mate.
Yeah, I think we'll have to type it in underneath. These Greek surnames can get a bit much. Dan, what about yourself?
_N.
DDL_SSN, yeah? Lovely. All good. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @SofaSportsNews_, or you can hit up our Facebook page, Sofa Sports News the Football Fan Network. It is now linked to our Facebook group, so you can access one from the other now. Something we just discovered last week, so nice little feature. On behalf of myself and the rest of the team, have a great evening.